So welcome back, listeners, to the Polo Lamb Experience podcast. Today we have Alan Tang, co-founder of CoLab, a digital education platform that empowers children to collaborate, solve problems, and of course, to have lots of fun. It was voted the most innovative educational project in 2024 by 11,000 educators and parents. Thanks for coming, Alan, to the Polo Lamb Experience to share to educators and parents, of course, about what you're up to. Today's episode is actually really special, I feel, because it's practical and it's going to be visual. Since you are going to show us how the platform actually works. Let's see if the share screen later works properly. And so if you are watching this on YouTube or even on Spotify, you should definitely get the video up so then you can see the platform. Before we get there though, we do want to know, of course, who is Alan and how he came up with all these ideas. This episode is great because not only that, he's an entrepreneur, he's also a fellow countryman of mine, and he grew up in the UK, so very similar story. So we really want to get to know about how Alan lived his life basically in the UK. Let's start with some quick fire questions, which is the traditional on this podcast. Are you ready, Alan?
Yeah, I'm ready. Hello.
Great.
Let's go.
Thank you so much. Okay, so first question. Dim sum or Sunday roast?
Tough one, but dim sum for the family.
Nice. I would have picked the same. I'm sorry, but the Asian food, gastronomy in general, I believe is the best. So yeah, it's I'm with you on that one. Definitely. What about do you usually speak in Cantonese or English? Which do you prefer?
So me and my wife, she's from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
We speak a mix. We call it Chinglish, but actually, I think in Cantonese, which is weird because I grew up in the UK. But I think in Cantonese because I think it's quicker. I speak mostly a mix of Cantonese, English, some Portuguese thrown in there.
Okay, interesting. That's interesting. That you think in Cantonese and you speak in English. That's really weird. For me, I completely switch off. I completely switch off the part that I'm not using. It's impossible.
But do you not find it's faster? So times tables as an example.
Numbers,
yeah.
yes, numbers. That's the only thing that I do think in Cantonese. Yes, you are correct. It's very strange though. So it
is very strange.
I don't think it doesn't just happen to me, because I always thought it was weird that whenever I want to count something, it's immediately literally when I'm playing a card game or whatever, Cantonese. But the rest, no. The rest, I don't know. The rest, would it be quicker to think in Cantonese? I don't know. That's a very
good skill.
Yeah,
it's a good skill to have.
Yeah, I mean, did you learn maths in Cantonese?
Yeah, times tables when I was 5. My dad was like, "You have to learn this."
Yeah.
And then I remember going to secondary school, year 7, and being like, "I did this 5 years ago, 6 years ago. What am I doing?"
My God, that's exactly. I mean, not exactly, but I didn't learn the times table when I was 5. I was actually pretty bad in maths in comparison to my peers. But still, when I was in year 5 and 6, when I went to England from Hong Kong, then I was like, yeah, I did that 3 years ago. What was this? But yeah, I was definitely thinking in Cantonese for maths. But yeah, that's very interesting. Because I just think in English when I was speaking English. When I was speaking in Spanish, I'm thinking in Spanish. There's no way I can mix that up because otherwise my brain would just malfunction very quickly. Interesting. Next question. Team sports or individual sports?
It's a tough one because I love team sports, but my favorite sports are bouldering, surfing, snowboarding, skateboarding. They're all individual sports. So
okay.
Individual.
So you practice more individual sports in your daily week. Okay, nice. We'll come to Tenerife for surf. I mean, here we got good weather, so you need it.
Sold. I am sold.
Yeah, and here is like the individual sport paradise. I mean, here they do what do you call it? The kite serving and win. Yeah, so you will love it. Okay, are you a planner or you're more of a spontaneous trip guy?
So I reflect back on our recent wedding.
Yeah.
I would say you plan for the eventualities. You have plan A, plan B, plan C. But actually, I like being spontaneous. So, as an example, on the wedding day, some stuff happened, and actually we weren't where we should have been with the photographer, and instead we were at the entrance to all the where the food and the bar was, and we just took it in our stride and actually welcomed everyone and took photos with them individually. That was quite nice. Instead of it was more candid shots of us meeting our guests and greeting them and having a conversation, as opposed to the traditional sat in a chair, people stood behind you.
Yes.
It felt so much more real, and that was super nice. And I'd say that actually have a bit of both, like have the backup plans, but adapt and react to whatever's around you.
Nice. So a mix of both. I'm yes. How about this? The north of or the south of the UK?
You're asking some tough questions. I'm from the south, so I have a loyalty to it. But when you go further north, people are just nicer. Life is just slower. It's much more enjoyable. Edinburgh, York, Manchester, Liverpool, lovely, lovely places, and cost of living as well is just so much cheaper. I would say if I had to choose, I would move up north.
I second that because I grew up in the north, so I lived in Kent for 3 years during uni. I didn't like it at all. So you can imagine the cultural shock was crazy. I mean, being in the same country and you think, what is this?
That's also I think from a food perspective, in the north you have a lot more interesting things, like the roasts are better. You have deep fried pizza in Scotland. It's chip butties. They don't exist in the south.
No, it's too, what you call it? It's too
too heavy.
Too heavy for the southerners. Oh God. Online learning or in-person classes?
So obviously CoLab is all online because we do that. We want kids from around the world to meet.
Yeah.
But I think you need a mix. You talk to homeschoolers, world schoolers, traditional students.
Mm-hmm.
You need a mix of both because you need the social element. And I think even as adults, right, when we meet online and you go and meet that person in real life,
It's so different.
the relationship is so much stronger after you've met a person.
110%. 110%.
So that's why COVID was so hard, right? Because people were just, we didn't have that. Yeah. Just, that's not the one.
100%. Okay, this is the last one. Study alone or with a group?
I quite like studying alone because my mind just wanders, but I find that group work is the best way. You get to learn from others. You get inspiration. You might not agree on a decision, but that will spark something. I think that there's just something that you can't do. Maybe with AI now, you have a sparring partner, but
you bounce ideas with the robot instead of your mate.
But working in a group's fun, and if I think about my university days, working in those projects late at night with my friends, that's when you form those friendships. That's when you have these stories that you can share.
What did you study again? Was it economics?
Economics work, yes.
It was economics. Nice. No, because I remember from your podcast with what was his name? Brian. Is it Brian?
Ben from the Edge of Futurists. Is it Ben?
No, Ben, no. Brian? You did a podcast with Brian and you talked about...
Oh, from, he's based in Hong Kong.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's how I saw you. I commented, I was like, oh, it is an interesting guy from Hong Kong. Let's see if we can have a conversation as well. So yeah, economics. Late night work and economics. I only hear this from architecture people, the late night 24-hour shifts that they do.
It was that you needed that pressure to get work done.
Right. I see. I never, imagine 4 years of my uni, never ever did an all-nighter. I don't. Wow. I don't understand. For me, that's not possible. I would collapse. I would just be like, okay, tomorrow's the deadline. screw this, I'm gonna fail anyway. Like I'm that sort of guy. You know, it's either plan way ahead or don't do it. That's how I am.
I like it. It's the way it should be. You're the right way to do it.
But I feel like most people don't do it that way. Like most people choose that pressure you said to, you know, the last minute, get it over and done with kind of thing. I just couldn't. Like, I just can't. Not good at it. I can't. Even right now with work, it's the same. I always plan like so much ahead, you know, before I execute.
You'd be an excellent co-founder. I'll tell you that.
You think? I need a co-founder. I'm working on my own right now. So yeah, that's very interesting. Anyways, thank you so much for this the quick fire round. Let's enter the main juicy part of the conversation. So the first question is probably the easiest and the most interesting, I would say. It's basically who's Alan and what is your dream?
To be honest, the dream keeps changing. I think it keeps evolving. But my background is squiggly, to say the least, and I think very non-traditional, especially for someone who's from Hong Kong. Studied economics, went to Warwick, became an accountant. You know, what an Asian parent would be happy with, and then worked in corporate finance. You know, 6-figure salary, directed by 24, bought a flat. All of the stuff that was just like tick box, tick box, tick box. And it was at that point, I was like 24, 25, I realized this is not how I want to live my life. This isn't what I am. And I went full 360. I quit. I became a chef for 3 years. And that was always a lifelong dream. Massive foodie, loved cooking, loved that element of hospitality. Didn't tell my parents for those 3 years because I know what they would have been like. So it was very much a secret for me and my friends, my close cousins. And I just cooked for 3 years, and I really learned so much from that world. You know, that ability to juggle multiple tasks, to deal with pressure, to pivot on a dime, to be very commercial. And a lot of people think that being a chef is quite like a low skill, low paid job. Actually, is like being an entrepreneur. There's so much you have to think about, so much you have to learn, and you really don't get another shot. Right? You send that food out. That's it. So it really helps you hone this idea of hospitality, this idea of perfectionism. And maybe for right or wrong reasons, I think that perfectionism is good, but also bad. You know, I now have to have the kitchen spotless every single day. You know,
were you the one commanding the place, the restaurant?
Not to start with, but I eventually did. So I was at a place called Honey & Co. In Warren Street. I joined pretty much as a kitchen porter, junior chef and prep chef. And I literally worked my way up. I was running service. I was ordering stuff. I catered for Sir David Attenborough's 80th birthday, which is really cool.
Wow.
And, you know, those are really cool experiences. But as a lifestyle, and from a salary perspective, it's very hard, right?
Yeah.
You get to head chef, you might be on 60, 70K a year.
But you work 36 hours a day, not 24.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing 70, 80-hour weeks easily. And, you know, you have no social life. You miss weddings, Christmas, New Year's, Mother's Day, you're always working. But I loved it, you know, that camaraderie you have. But I decided to leave because I wanted more balance in my life, and I knew that, you know, in my 30s, 40s, I couldn't sustain that lifestyle. Yeah. So I moved to this sort of fractional chief staff role where I go into a business, I help them go from 0 to 100, 0 to 10 million revenue, you know, pre-seed to Series A. And I do that on a fractional basis, so 1-2 days a week, that particular client.
Okay.
And this means that I have time to do other stuff like, you know, do private catering, go into a school and teach kids how to cook.
So that was freelancing.
Yeah, everything was freelancing. I tried going back to becoming an employee, and I just couldn't do it. I wanted that freedom. I wanted to make an impact. And I think when you're a contractor and your dynamic is different, and you can speak candidly to your client and say, look, I've noticed this doesn't work. I've seen it in other places. I really urge you to try X, Y, and Z. And, you know, you can make a difference so quickly. Like, I've saved 4 businesses from bankruptcy in 10 years, 9 years.
That's very interesting. So where did that come from? Because obviously, okay, you worked at a business when you started your career, and then you were a chef, and then when you came back out, like how did you get this?
It's a great question.
It's like random, no? Like a little bit random to help.
It's a great question. I think it was hard. So when you're a chef, you know, I had literally forgotten how to use Excel. I'd forgotten about all this business stuff. It comes back to you.
Yeah.
I'd say that a lot of it was maintaining those relationships. So my first couple of clients were ex-colleagues, friends, and I was helping them build financial models, streamline, you know, their CRMs, streamline their sales process. And I think when you are driven, you're good, and you're accountable as a consultant, people trust you, and you start to build a name for yourself. And I care more about my reputation than anything else, because actually, you know, that's the thing that dictates how much work you get, what your name is like. And you know, I'd rather go in and fix a problem and do the right thing, the honorable thing, and you know, get paid less, maybe not even get paid at all, but do it because I actually think it'll help people and it's the right thing to do. And that's always been my mantra, right? Do the honorable thing, because ultimately, if you don't, it's going to come back and haunt you.
Yeah, no, 100%. To have a sustainable business, basically, you need a sustainable reputation, right? Because one wrong move can really ruin you for the long term, right? People turn on you, basically.
And it's weird, because I used to think that I would choose the product, the company, the mission over the people. And I think that's what a lot of people do. What I've come to realize is that, especially in my earlier days, I should have chosen the right company with the right people, regardless of industry or product, because those people can guide you, can mentor you. Like as a contractor, you don't have that mentorship. You don't have those growth opportunities as easily. So finding those right people to help you grow as you grow the business is really important. And you know, there are so many people that I'm thankful for. They've made me who I am. They've made me much less corporate, and I think that they've made me realize that who you are at work doesn't have to be separate to who you are at home. I think they can be one and the same.
I agree with that. 100%. So to summarize, your dream actually shifted, right? From when you were younger, you wanted to basically comply with the tradition of where we should be as an Asian person, and then it was food and cooking, because that's something you probably already have as a hobby during your life. Did you have like peers or your parents or something who were cooking already? And
my parents owned a chip shop, so I was cooking, you know, with them, but no one I knew was a chef, and it was just, I just had to go and experience it firsthand. And obviously, working in a restaurant is very different to working at home. I guess to answer your question, Polo, my dream has, like you said, evolved over time. Now it's about trying to make a difference. I care about helping people and companies, and strangely enough, I don't work for money. My wife hates this, because she's like, you have so much experience that you should, you know, earn enough and have a comfortable life. And I do have that, but I will choose a project which is a tenth of the pay if it's interesting, if it does some good, if it actually gives back. And I just think that that's just a nicer way of doing business, right? You can earn so much money, but if you're not able to enjoy it, you're stressed all the time.
So today's dream is, what is today's dream right now?
For me right now, it's focusing on CoLab, so helping these kids learn these life skills, because I see, if you go into a school, you go into, you know, as an employer, you see how unprepared a lot of kids are for life after education, and it's really sad, and I want to change that.
Nice. That's a very nice mission to have. I love that, and it will evolve again for sure, and even become bigger for sure. Is this something you're doing full time, right? CoLab.
I don't think I could ever do something full time, so I spend maybe 4 days a week on it, and then 3 days a week on other stuff. But I would say it feels full time.
Okay. Like teaching cooking and stuff like that. Is that what you're saying, mate? The other place. That's amazing. I mean, that means your week is just interesting. Like, you never, as you say, less corporate. You know, just running around doing different stuff, like meeting with developers one day, and then another day you're meeting with suppliers for ingredients, food, and then right and consulting, doing podcasts.
Well, I could do stuff like this, right? And I think that what's really cool is that people think everything's modular, that if you work in finance, you're only relevant in finance, you work in ops, you should only be relevant in ops. What I've come to realize is that all your experiences actually culminate together, because life is not siloed. You tend to find that actually, if I'm good at negotiating this and reading contracts, I'll be useful in procurement, I'll be useful in these commercial conversations, commercial strategy. And actually having quite a mixed background has been super beneficial. People don't realize that, but I would say I would encourage young people these days to actually go out and get broad experiences and then start to develop a niche later in life, as opposed to, what happens in the UK, you choose your GCSEs, then you funnel down to your A levels, then you choose one subject for uni, and that's kind of you pigeonholed forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's
what they try to do. Yeah, that's what the system tries to do to the person, right? To make you figure it out as quickly as possible. That's very interesting. That is literally like the contrast of the system here in Spain, basically, which is, you don't need to know anything at all until you're 30. Like, nothing, because the A levels here, the equivalent of A levels here is studying every single subject. Basically, you still do maths, you still do Spanish literature. Like, there's no difference to our GCSE, you get what I'm saying? So yeah, it's very different, the concept.
And that gives you a good grounding, right? So that when you do decide, I want to be a vet or I want to be an engineer, you're not hamstrung by previous decisions that you made when you were 16.
Yeah, I guess I don't like it though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, because from what I'm seeing of the young people they're producing is that they end up actually not knowing anything. As in, like, because they never got into depth with a lot of things. They get into uni. The first year of uni, imagine, it's still the same. Like, they still have to do maths and random subjects that have nothing to do with the actual course that they chose. So I wonder, which is, a mix. I'm sure, like, a mix is always the best way, right? Not the two extremes. I think Spain is pretty extreme in this case, in trying to make it like, freedom, choose. You have time to choose, that kind of thing. And then the UK is like, no, you're 18. You should know what you need to do.
But it's interesting, because you're saying it sounds like Spain has a lot of freedom to choose and that sort of that flexibility. But at the same time, Spain is one of those countries that doesn't allow homeschooling. Yeah. And I would have thought that homeschooling would have been, an option. Yeah.
No, it's the kind of freedom that I question, basically. And is it really freedom, or you're just shipping young people into the unknown and absolutely lost in life? So yeah, that's why I question this. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. The next question is pretty much completely unrelated, I believe, but I feel like we can understand a bit better of how you came up with all these ideas and dreams and careers. Is basically, what would you say as a Cantonese person living in the UK, what are the advantages and disadvantages it has brought to you as a person, and both as a person and a profession as well?
There's I think the UK has a lot of benefits, right? It's very diverse. And as an example of that, you can think about, a friend once asked me, actually, like at the wedding, how would you describe British cuisine? And I'd say, chicken tikka masala. Very great example of this, because it's kind of taken bits of English cooking, merged it with like Indian cooking, and it's kind of become this national dish. And I think that really represents what Britain is. It's a melting pot. So when people are like, voting for Brexit and all of that, it doesn't really make sense, because the UK is genuinely a mix of so many different cultures and nationalities because of its past, right? And I mean, that's a really strong thing. And the other thing is that there are so many people moving to the UK. So you think about where we live, Canary Wharf, full of Cantonese people who've moved across from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And it feels like mini Hong Kong. I will leave the flat and there'll be someone speaking Cantonese. There's like 2 Chinese supermarkets nearby. It just is so convenient and so flexible. And obviously, where we live, London, being London, it's the hub of so many things, right? And from that, you get so many opportunities. I've probably had 4 clients just from like walking around London, talking to people, meeting people that I probably wouldn't have met. And I would say that that is like a huge advantage, because having stayed in Portugal for a few days is great, but you realize how small it really is. We had friends bumping into each other in Lisbon at Time Out Market, and you just think, of all the days.
No way.
And it's just like they would just bump into each other, and you can. Lisbon really is quite small, whereas London actually feels massive. So that's a great thing. I'd say disadvantages are that if you've lived in Hong Kong, you understand this, but like I think the pace of life in London is still relatively slow, and when you want things done, as an example, going out for lunch in Hong Kong, 10 minutes and you're served, you're done, like you've paid. And in the UK, you're probably waiting 20, 30 minutes, just queuing. I think queuing is just a big part of British culture.
Let's be polite before we let's queue. Let's do this tradition. That's really funny. That is crazy, because like I've gone from the extreme of Hong Kong, as you were describing right there. I've not lived in London like a long time, but I've been through, and I've maybe stayed there for like a month or 2 with my friends, etc. So I've obviously seen it and done it. My brother was there; he did his master's there as well. And then going from that to Spain, it's like London is really quick. You get what I'm saying? Like this is the best thing about the globalization of everything is you realize everything's so relative, right? So there's no absolute defined, okay, this is the way it should be, because like us going to London now would be like, oh my God, there's too much things going on, chaotic. And then you go back to Hong Kong, you're like, okay, it's actually not that bad. Like Hong Kong is on another level, right? Or even Tokyo or something. So yeah, like that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and what you've just said just sparked something in me. I think that when you talk to friends working in the US, in Hong Kong, in Europe, you actually realize that the workplace culture in England isn't bad. Lots of holiday, good hours, decent pay, a lot of employee protection. There are friends in the US who've just been fired, and that's it. You don't get anything. You're off.
There's no
after
protection at all, right?
Yeah, and then you get like 10 days holiday. It's very difficult. And even in Hong Kong, friends were saying that they get, I think, 7 days holiday, and then they get obviously the national holidays. Yeah. But it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult because even though it's stated that it's there, you asking your boss for that holiday is a barrier, an invisible cultural barrier that you're like, you shouldn't really ask that kind of thing, right? Here, yes, it's completely different. Here is, what's wrong with you? Go on holiday. Like, it's the other way around. Like, if you don't go on holiday and party, you're strange, and like you shouldn't be working that hard. That's the
we noticed it in Portugal, where a lot of the famous restaurants, they close for the summer to go away, and my aunties were like, why would they miss out on peak season? Because they value life more than money, right? And I think it's a really good mentality, as long as you find that balance.
100%. It's the world is huge. Having lived in different countries, I mean, I will never get tired of that, of living in a country and exploring, not traveling, because people mistaken from doing like a week in a place. No, like living there for a month, then you really see like little details that you think, oh, actually, home is not that bad with this situation.
Would you keep going? So where's next?
Where's next? No, I want to stay in Spain. Like for me, this is a very nice place to live. Like you can, I haven't found a place as good as this to live. Now, the other question is obviously professional side of things, right? Where, okay, economically, opportunities and ambition. Here is not the best place, so I don't rule out having to do a few years out of Spain if things don't go well with business. But yeah, like for my intention now, trying my hardest to stay here, to make my company as remote as possible and to help as many schools as possible without having to actually go there and, you know, make them pay an extra whatever to be there. So that's my mission right now. It's very hard. It's proving very, very difficult. But yeah, I'm still alive, so I'm fighting, and I'm young. I'm Chinese, so we don't give up, right? We just keep going.
Well, I think having the intention is enough. I was reading Lord of the Rings on my holiday, and as you do, and the theme is very much about, look, there'll always be dark days, but the light will always shine through. I mean, just having that hope and that persistence is really important. And you know, I've known you for a couple of weeks, a couple of months now, Polo. I know I think you'll be very successful just because how driven you are and how much perseverance you have, right? You don't give up. And I think that's what people want.
What I do is I pivot. Like, it's kind of giving up a little bit, but then not like everything that you have done so far. Like, you adapt it to somewhere else.
You should. Yeah. You definitely should.
Exactly. And I've learned a lot, obviously. Because I'm not, like, I'm completely different to your career path, where I've never worked for anyone. I've not become a director. I've not had to manage a huge team. I just literally jumped onto entrepreneurship. I'm like, look, I wanted to start a business. I want to create value in society, and I believe this is the best way to do it. Just do it now. Like, don't wait until somebody tells you you're ready. You have enough experience after working X amount of years. I don't know, like, that's how my brain worked when I was at uni. I was like, let's just do it now. Like, why am I waiting until I'm 30 to get some experience? Because that was my original idea. But I thought, you know, maybe tomorrow I die, and then I never, you know, I never got to live the entrepreneurial dream, right? So let's do it now, that kind of thing.
I love that. And, you know, I think it's important. I think it's really hard. Loads of people have great ideas, but they're so scared to make that leap because they think, what if I miss this opportunity? I'd frame it the other way. If you don't do this, you've already lost the opportunity, right? Like, I spent a year saying yes to everything, literally everything. Yeah. And in that year, I skydived, I ran the London Marathon, I joined a charity as a trustee. I did loads of like chef stages. I went into restaurants to work, you know, pretty much as an intern. Made loads of new friends. Met one of my best friends actually. You know, just through these opportunities. And I think that sometimes, especially when you're young, as long as you don't, you know, break the law, exactly, you're actually going to do very well from that because it's a life experience that you can just use.
100%. That leads us to the next question, the main question of this podcast, which is what is Collab and how did it start? You know, saying yes to all these things. Collab must have been one of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I fell into education, right? So I worked at Elon Musk's online school Synthesis, and I thought, this is great. And actually, you realize that how much impact education can have on a child and their growth. But I don't believe in, you know, an AI tutor. I don't believe that education can just be automated. There has to be a human element where you model behavior, you model personality, you model ethics. And I also believe that actually it shouldn't just be purely online. It should be a blended approach. So a lot of programs are just there where it's, you know, pay $500 a month, you get as many sessions as you want. That's not healthy. I think that's actually quite bad because you're staying at a screen all day. Yeah. You don't do anything else. You become very
addicted. Like you're encouraging them to become addicted to your platform.
Yeah, and that's not, you know, with doom scrolling, all of that already in place, like, it's not healthy. So what we did was we wanted to create something that was fun, something that was educational, something that brought together kids from around the world, but also something that was not it wasn't addiction. Like the games, the escape rooms, the discussions, they're just a vehicle for learning. And everything we do has a learning objective. So if I was to describe CoLab, I'm going to quote a parent. It's Pokemon meets Sherlock Holmes, but with an educational goal. And they describe it that way because the look and feel of it does look like 2D Pokemon. Pokemon Gold, Pokemon Red.
With the Nintendo of the past.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're doing this with other people. You have live coaches there, who can guide you and nudge you, but they're not there to teach you. And I think that's really important because we find that, we find that if children come up with their own systems, their own solutions, that lasts a lifetime. If you tell them the answer, they might remember it for an hour, a day, a week. And this is what we're trying to encourage. Like, we're trying to help kids develop that curiosity, that confidence, that resilience of making mistakes. In this world where everything needs to be perfect, you only have one shot. Actually, that's not true. The best way to learn is to make mistakes. Actually, okay, I did that. Let's try this. And this is what we wanted to build. So obviously I could show you, but the idea was very much bringing together kids from around the world, teach them through experiences, and then help them learn through giving them feedback, through written feedback at the end of each week, but also helping them remove this unconscious biases that they have. Like, we have kids from 15, maybe 20 countries now. Mm-hmm. When you bring them together, you start to realize that everyone, regardless of skin color, regardless of culture, we're all the same. We just have different nuances, right? So in India, nodding your head sideways is actually yes.
Yes. Really?
Obviously, an English person might think that's why are you saying that? There are little nuances, and I think that we're trying to help these kids learn these by just giving them that exposure. And actually, when they make these friendships globally, it's cool, right? If I had friends in Japan right now, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to come visit. And I could do that. But because of how I grew up, I don't have that.
You literally described my childhood, like literally just there. Like, the benefit of being at a boarding school, basically, is that. Like, you get to know little things like the nodding that you just wouldn't know being schooled at your local school without this multicultural environment. That is interesting. Keep going. So,
question for you, Polo. Did boarding school, was it worth it for you? Because we're thinking about this, right? So we don't have kids yet. If we do, probably my inclination is to go towards homeschooling now, because I've met so many homeschool parents and students that I started to realize they're very mature for their age. They're very worldly. You can have a conversation with them. They're exposed to so many different things. Mm-hmm. And obviously there are challenges around, how you balance work and teaching, how you do the schedule.
Yeah.
Do they have enough social elements? But actually, at least you have control over that. Whereas, traditional school, you see absences, you see truancy rates, you see literacy rates. They're all at all time bad. So what's the inclination to go to a traditional school?
My question to you would be, how scared are you that your child would be one of those students who will miss school and have problems at school or get brainwashed by some elements of it?
Well, we don't know, right? Because we don't have the child right now. I think it really depends. I don't believe in this one size fits all, and I think you have to have a conversation where the child is part of that conversation. Yeah. And you let them make that decision. But I don't think it's finite, right? Just because I homeschool doesn't mean I can't just then go to a traditional school afterwards.
100%.
Vice versa. But my experiences so far, so I went to a grammar school. I would say that the thing that I learned from going to school was how to make friends and that social element, and I've made lifelong friends. But did I learn anything that I couldn't have learned on my own at home? Probably not. Realistically, if I'm being honest, probably not. And I think back to even university, my final exam, I remember it to this day. I memorized 3 essays, word for word. My question came up. I just jotted it down. Finished it in 40 minutes. I left and I got first. And I thought, that can't be it,
I had I completely get what you're saying. The funny thing is, people don't believe me, but I chose to go to boarding school. I mean, I didn't know what boarding school was, but like I chose to leave Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big difference. As you were saying, like, let the child kind of choose and feel their way through the system. So I chose. I knew from a young age somehow. I don't know why. It's just it was wired in me that I was able to make big decisions without regret. Because I was never that kid that I'd do something, made a mistake, and then I would be like sad for a month. I'm the kind of guy that can overcome that emotion quickly and just move on and be like, oh, whatever, it's done. Okay, so I knew at that moment that I was making a huge decision, and that my brother was the only guy who would be with me with that journey. But then somehow I knew, as you were saying, that uni exam paper that you did, whilst I was in Hong Kong, studying so hard and memorizing everything, basically, just to get a grade. And then having like teacher-student parent meeting and saying how, oh, you need extra to tutoring, whatever, because you didn't get an A. Because I was getting B's and I was still bottom of the class, getting B's and C's. So I was like, this can't be it. Right? This can't be it. So when my brother told me, okay, in the UK, you just play football. And it's really chilled. And, the education is not like that in Hong Kong. So I was like, all right. So from what my brother, a trusted source, obviously, he lives there now, tells me this, then let's give it a go. So I decided to go to boarding school. And honestly, the best decision I ever made. As you say, like, it made me more mature.
Mm-hmm.
It's not online school, but I feel like there's an element to it that's because it's so different to traditional school. It made me grow up very quickly, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So combining that with the multicultural environment, 100%, like, recommended, 100%. And then the school, I mean, I just learned what I had to learn. I knew what was useful and what wasn't. And for the material that wasn't useful, I'm just like, I'm going to pass this. I'm not going to spend too much brain power arguing with the teacher, like, why am I doing this kind of thing? I would just be like, you know what? This is how it is. Pass, bye-bye. And then for the subjects, which I was very interested in, for example, biology and business, of course, when I was older, I really dug into it. I started reading books about it because I was interested.
Yeah.
So that kind of environment helped me mature enough to know what is important and what is not. Now, homeschooling, I don't know because I don't really know anybody who's done that. I feel like it's still a concept that's coming from the US. Like, in the US, it's like a normal thing. Whereas in Europe, it's not heard of, right? Like, as you say, in Spain, it's not even allowed. Like, it's illegal. How can you make that illegal? Like, come on. Like, if you have time, if you have the money, balance, whatever, why shouldn't it be an extra option, right, for the kids? So yeah, at boarding school, definitely. If the child themselves absolutely reject the idea, then no. Then I would say no, because then you're throwing them into hell, probably, because they know they don't want it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a personal experience, I would 100% advocate for it. In fact, I still do today. Like, I did a podcast with a head of boarding, sexy school, and yeah, I was just like, I 100% encourage anyone to try it, even for 1 year.
That's quite cool, actually, and it's we're open to it. It's just about thinking whether it works. I think the challenge in the UK right now is that with Labour coming to power, I think private schools, it's an extra 20%, 19%.
Go to a state boarding school. I went to a state boarding school. Have you heard about state? Do you know about state boarding school?
I didn't know they existed, to be honest. I haven't ever met one, so they've always been private schools. So that's interesting.
There's only 28 of them. So obviously they're outgunned by the private boarding schools. But it's better option because you don't pay the actual education, you just pay for the boarding, which is a lot cheaper, of course. Okay, so I was discussing this with Tim, who was my other guest, the head of boarding, and he was saying, actually, the fact that you are paying for the boarding as if you were paying for a private boarding house means that the boarding education itself, the quality is as good as any private boarding, because you're still paying for it. It's not like boarding is free. You're really paying for it, like for the staff, for the outdoor activities, the day-to-day running of it. So it's not a subsidized public thing where it's just free and, it's going to suck. You're actually paying for it. So state boarding is a good option, I believe. I don't know if they get their VAT as well. I think if there's a discussion around that, like, are they going to get the VAT as well or not? I'm not sure. But even if they did, it will be cheaper.
I'll investigate. Sounds like a great option.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now have a look. Well, listen to the podcast next week. You see it. It's coming out. Anyways, yeah. So we got so sidetracked. Sorry. Colab. Yeah, Colab. How it started. Who's your co-founder? I never asked.
There are 7 of us, so we're based all around the world. So 8 of us, sorry, in total, based all around the world. But most of them are US based, so it's a bit crazy.
Oh,
we're all
how
friends.
did you meet them though?
We met through my previous job, and we just stayed as friends. And then some are educators, some are homeschool parents, some are, work in operations. And we just thought, let's try it. And, everyone says don't work with your friends. It's really hard. You can't have those conversations. But actually, if anything, we found that being friends has helped have those difficult conversations early on and start to realize, okay, this is what we should do. And it's been really good. Like, we've had a bit of a crazy year. We're a year and a week old now. We have had 300 students sign up to us. We have won an award, like you said at the start. We started working with schools. All this stuff people said impossible from day one, but we've kind of made it happen. And I think that is really testament to the team and what they've done to make this possible. I just like having these conversations, but actually, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here.
Are you does each of you have like a specific role, or you just kind of have to do everything? Like everyone has
we do everything. I mean, we're all generalists, so we're all like if you have an idea, write the curriculum. If you want to test something out, build them up. If you want to, do some marketing, make the video for it. It's kind of cool because I've said to the team and our teachers from day one, see Colab as a stepping stone. If you want, stay for as long as you want, but if you want to learn how to code, if you want to learn how to write curriculum, if you want to be a teacher, do it here. Just practice. We'll give you those opportunities, but all we ask for you is care about the student experience, care about what you do, and like I said at the start, build that reputation. We're there to support you.
You support the staff as well. That's another thing that Tim said. That's exactly what he said. The head of boarding, he was like, yeah, like the staff can stay with us only for a few years and move on, as long as we've helped them improve. That's our mission. Like we want them to go for the soul. It's exactly the same idea. Maybe it's a common theme in education. It's because it's not like a business where the only goal is to make as much money as possible. I find that special about the education sector.
I agree with you there. So people are very open to ideas. In other sectors, everyone's like, keep your cards close to your chest, don't share anything because people will steal your ideas. I've been asking, I've maybe spoken to like 400 educators and parents in the last year, and they will just talk candidly to me. They'll share ideas, they'll give suggestions, they'll make referrals, they'll make introductions. No one in the industry I've ever worked in does that, and it really is. A lot of the people that work in the space care about the space. They want it to grow, and that's been our philosophy since day one. Like, we'll tell you everything, we'll share everything, because ultimately, the more people investing in this space, the more people building in this space, the ultimate beneficiary are the students, and that's what we care about. Yeah,
and it's our children. It's our children who are going to benefit. And
exactly.
We will benefit. Love that. I really love the ultimate goal and the mission. Let's see it. I think we're about time to actually see the platform.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can now.
So this is a platform you can see like 2D pixel art, very much look and feel of Pokemon. And this challenge here is called Riddle Rally.
Little Alley.
Riddle Rally.
Riddle Rally. Sorry,
But the idea is that there are 3 parallel lanes, and each lane has multiple doors that you need to unlock. But to unlock those doors to the next room, you have to use the clues from the other lanes as well. So it requires communication, it requires critical thinking. It also requires a team to actually delegate tasks because it's a time-based challenge. So, here's the start, it just explains it. It also helps kids develop that confidence in their voice because they'll be reading the stuff out. And because it's fun, we find that students who maybe are a bit shy, and because this is all online avatar, they start to use their voice more and they develop that confidence in their oral skills, which, is a big problem at the moment. So that's kind of what happens. Then they walk down and, there's lane 1, lane 2, lane 3. I'll show you lane 3.
Okay, so once you enter lane 3, you cannot communicate with the guys who are in lane 2 and lane 1, or you can through the chat.
Do you see how my screen's gone dark?
Yep.
So the lightened bits are where you can communicate with the different lanes, and when it's dark, you can't. So if I go through this door, you'll see I can only speak to people in my room now.
Okay.
But if I go out, you see it lightens up. I can speak to people in the store. And it's great because then it means that here you can talk and you come out to share. So the students recognize that and they start to think, okay, I need to go and share something. Let me go out. There's obviously also this computer that they can share notes and write down, their findings, which obviously helps because some kids don't like speaking, right? They want to use chat. They want to communicate. So this first room is very much about deciphering this riddle. So you have a cipher here, which A equals B, B equals C, C equals D. And kids have to recognize that pattern, and then they have to walk around the room and find different things, and they'll find that there's a clue. Okay.
Lovely.
What does this mean? Now,
no clue.
This is if you read it and decipher it, it says now spell me backwards. And the other clues are I have 4 legs, I have no feet, you eat on me, what am I? And obviously the thing is table. So apologies for the spoiler for any of your guests who want to play this, but we will change it. So you spell table backwards, you go through to the next round. So it's not super difficult, but there's a bit of quirkiness, but it requires teamwork, it requires communication. And it's, our challenges are meant to be fun, they're meant to be engaging, they're meant to be challenging, but not too difficult. And the idea is that there's a progression, right? So the first one's easy, the second one's medium, the third one's...
It gets harder.
And, this one's slightly different, it's about pattern recognition. So you'll see that here there are different birds with different names, and then you'll see that there's some black dots. And you have to work with the different lanes to figure out what animals fit into what parts.
So you need the clues from all of the lanes in order to open your door as well?
Yes, so all the doors have the same password and you need to share your clues. So that goes back to my point about communication, right? You need to be able to understand what you found, summarize it, and articulate it to the other lanes. So that helps with listening skills. It also helps with speaking skills. And then you take that information back and it's new information and you have to think, okay, what does that mean? How can I use that? And that's where it like real life, right? You'll do a project and something might come up. Someone might tell you, oh, actually, this customer did this, or we're seeing this trend. You have to factor that now into your decision making.
100%.
And this is what we're trying to mimic. We're trying to mimic real life situations.
How old are these kids who join? Is there like an age limit or like group some good?
we don't group by age, we group by stage, but typically starting point would be 7 to 8, 8 to 11, 11 to 14.
Okay.
Now, for the 11 to 14, we can make the challenges harder and we can give them fewer clues, or we can add a bit more complexity. But in general, it scales really well because it's not so much about finishing the challenge, it's about that journey along the way.
Yeah, I think you told me before, like, it doesn't matter if they don't finish, it's what their evaluation, reflection at the end of the session is, right? And how they educate it. It's like, okay, so you guys were shouting at each other at this point. What happened there? What did you learn? That kind of thing.
That's the key thing, right? I think it's about helping the kids reflect. So we always have a reflection moment, and then we send emails home because we want the parents and the kids to realize, this is what I did. This worked. This didn't work. Next week or next session, let me try this. And I think that's really powerful because it gives you that feedback loop, and we make it very clear from day one that, look, we're not right for everyone, but we are right for the people who want to learn, who want to make mistakes, who want to keep trying, because actually that's the best way to learn. And we encourage failure, right? In the safe space, failure is fine because we'd rather you do that here than in a real life high pressure environment. And what we've come to realize, what parents have said to us after 3-4 weeks, they will say to us, my son is using more inclusive language. My daughter's more confident. My daughter's making friends easier. My daughter's more empathetic. All this stuff is actually stuff that really matters and probably isn't taught at school. So we think it's really important that we can actually help with this.
I love it because it feels like CoLab is helping schools fill the gap, right?
Yeah, and look, we're not here to replace schools, and we're not right for every school, but I find that the students that come to us, they leave just more well-rounded, and we try to embed it into their foundation so that it becomes part of who they are. And I think that's really important, right? Because there's no point in you joining for 2 weeks and then leaving and then just wasting that money.
Yeah.
Join, learn those skills, make it part of your, the fiber of who you are, and then actually go out and share that. Because we find that kids will say, we might give them some feedback and say, look, you might have noticed a few people had their hands up. Next time, maybe you could try saying, Polo, I saw you had your hand up. Did you have something to add? Once they start saying that, the other kids will start picking up on that and start doing the same technique. And what you then have is a multiplier effect, right? You have one kid going out into a school, starting this new skill, sharing this new skill. Then you have 300 kids all doing that. And then those 300 kids go off into their different parts. And it becomes a thing. And I think that's what we really care about. There's a multiplier effect of education.
Yeah, 100%. I can see that impact that they can have when they go to school physically, right? As well, when they go back to school and they can utilize that.
Yeah, and look, let me quickly show you another one because I think it's really cool. This is one that is called Elemental Escape, and the idea is about building impulse control, emotional intelligence, and empathy. And how it works is that the narrative is you and 11 friends are stuck in the dungeon and you need to escape, but you need to escape together, right? Now, clues littered around so that if you get caught, so that it'll help you figure out how to escape.
Yeah.
And there are guards littered around so that if you get caught by a guard, you get sent back to the start. And what that means is that, after 20 times you get sent back to the start, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get annoyed, you start to point fingers. And this is where the facilitator jumps in and says, what's more important here, team? Is it to figure out who to blame, or is it to figure out how to beat the challenge? And it just helps the kids experience that, knowing how to navigate those situations, because it's situations that they'll come across in life.
Every day, yeah. Everyday life. Get caught, try to escape, get caught, try to escape, and try something different.
So that's just a clue. Obviously, there are hidden doors. You keep going. I don't know why I'm a red rabbit, but that's my avatar. So you keep going, and then you'll see down there's an exclamation mark. I don't know if you can see it. It says, I think I heard something. That's a guard, but the kids don't know that, and they might think, oh, that might be a clue. You go there, send back to the start. And it helps with impulse control, it helps with delegation, but it also helps with risk calculation, it helps with, emotional intelligence. Because think, you get to the end door and then one of your teammates gets caught. How are you going to feel in that moment? And how do you manage? What tools do you have to manage that emotion?
Instead of just shouting at the screen and breaking the screen, which is what traditional gamers do. I've never done that, but I can see it. That replication, like when I was playing games and, you know, with a team, co-op, whatever, and you start shouting at each other, right? Like, oh, why did you do that? Why did you do this?
But this is why we do it, right? So it's very easy to build something that's fun. It's very easy to build something that's educational, but to combine the two and make it intentional is why there's that special sauce.
Definitely. There's one question that just came up to me right now, to my mind. How do you manage with the time zone difference? So, like, obviously, like a US kid is going to school at X time, Indian kid, Australian kid is going to school another time. So how do you get them together at the same time?
Great question. The easier thing for us to do would just be to accept US kids, right? That's what a lot of online platforms do because it's the biggest market. But actually, like I said to you at the start, we care about that global sharing of languages. So when the clocks move forward and back at different time zones, it becomes a nightmare.
Yeah.
But we have different sessions at different times of the day throughout the week, and we just say, look, Tuesday 2 p.m. PT, Wednesday 8 a.m. PT, Saturday 7 a.m. PT. These work for different time zones. So some work for US and Australia, some work for US and Europe, some just work for Europe. And it works because actually you can then have quite a global approach. And, we've had friends, students who've become lifelong friends. One is in Australia, the other is based in Florida. They're like best mates. And that's down to having a platform like this where you can be global, truly global. But yeah, it's not been easy. Like when the clocks move forward and back, the team are just like, how do we calculate this?
Yeah.
Because even Australia, right, is so big that they have different time zones.
Exactly. In their own country, like the US. So it's like, how do you do it? You must be fluent by now in time zone.
I recognize quite a few. So I know, ET, CT, Mountain Time, China, like Central European Time, Dubai, India. It's just, I just know the time. And then someone's like, how would you know that? And he said, years of experience.
Exactly. That's what I mean, like an extra skill on your CV. I could, like, every time I have to have a call with somebody in Mexico or whatever, always check, triple check, like, okay, what is the time now in Mexico? And then do the Cantonese counting, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, literally, like, I cannot, because it's crazy. Like, it's such a simple thing, and we should be taught at school this type of thing. Time zones.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of is, you have an app for that now, right? But I mean, the idea of CoLab is that we want to make education accessible. So with how we've built it, you don't need the latest laptop, you don't need the fastest internet connection. It's just about making it accessible so that you don't have to be like super rich to afford it, because I think that's true for a lot of programs.
Yeah.
And we do offer scholarships. We care about having an impact so that we run this Robin Hood model with those who can afford to pay, and we just, all the profits that we make go towards scholarships for kids. We've just sponsored 6 kids in Ukraine. We're about to sponsor another one, and it's nice to be able to do that, because let's be honest, right? Ukraine's going through a lot.
Yeah.
Can we support in a small way? I hope so. Like, just give them a bit of normality within that hour is the nice thing to do.
Wow, that's amazing. That's actually amazing, because I was going to ask you, like, what is different about CoLab compared to his competitors? I don't know any competitors, so you must know, because you've obviously checked them out. Yeah. So what is the main difference, would you say, of CoLab in comparison to others?
I don't like to say competitors, because actually we're very unique, and we actually recommend other programs or platforms, because we recognize that what we have is not right for everyone.
Yeah.
And goes back to that point, we don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach. Mm-hmm. But I would say what's unique about CoLab is that we are intentionally an hour a week, so that it's not about addiction. There is time for reflection and time for the kids to develop those skills. Maybe go outside, ride a bike, play with friends. We care a lot about feedback. So every week you'll get dedicated feedback, and every 4 weeks you get an in-person meeting with the teacher, or you get written feedback about, this is what Polo did really well. This is what Polo could work on. This is Polo's secret mission for the week, for the month. And that, I think, is really special because it requires a human to actually think about what was Polo like for that month. Was there progression?
Yeah.
I think the other thing, obviously, global cohorts, and just using games, but games and discussions and escape rooms, but they're just the vehicle, right? So a lot of things like Synthesis, like Next Level, really great. And, I've invested in Synthesis. I believe in what they do. But they're an AI tutor. Their games are very much just about the kids jumping in, figuring it out, and then playing. Great, but where's the feedback? Where's the coaching? Where's the learning objective there? Like, are you just playing for playing's sake? That this is a very big difference because, like I said to you at the start, it's so easy to make something that's fun, but to give it a learning objective is incredibly difficult. And I can say from our experience, we've probably thrown away 10, 12 games just because it's been fun, but it doesn't have that learning objective.
Yeah. You have to take a long time to really evaluate each game and consequences that it could bring, right, to the learning. Especially when you have a very specific target to hit and say, we want the student to learn this and this and this soft skill once they finish, right? Another question, are they graded? Like, how are they graded? Because that's a huge debate in the education world. It's like, okay, yeah, we all want to change the system, but if we don't grade kids, how do we evaluate, right? So that's the big question.
Yeah.
What do you do in CoLab?
It's very hard to grade, right? Because how do you measure someone's teamwork or communication or leadership? It's relative. So instead of grading, it's sort of yardsticks. This is where you were at the start of CoLab. This is where you were after a month. And this is what you can do to get to the next level. This is where you were after month 2. And you can see that feedback email. And that's why it's so powerful. And look, I would say to parents, if you haven't noticed that improvement in your son, your daughter within 3-4 weeks, we've done something wrong. Because typically a parent will message us after 3 or 4 weeks and say, I can't believe how much more confident Alan is. I can't believe that actually Alan is making friends so much easier. We have a student who's homeschooled based in Mexico, and his mum has told us he finds it very difficult to make friends. He's been with us for 8 months now, and he recently went to Chicago, and he made 6 friends at the airport. And his mum was like, that has never happened before. You're the only thing that's changed. And we thought, great, that's testament to actually what we've achieved. And that's just one example, but I think these are the things that really matter to kids, right? It's not so much, I have an A star in maths. What does that mean? Like, is it transferable? Can you use that in a situation?
No, that's a great, that's an amazing testament to how good the program is being and having impact, real impact on young people. So this is a random idea. Do you guys have like an alumni network?
We're not old enough to have
1 year. Yes, that's true.
A 1 year old, but how we work is that we find partners, and then if the students graduate from CoLab or they're no longer learning, we pass them on to the likes of the Knowledge Society in Canada, LIS in London, even the Journey, which is an ex-colleague's program, which is all about entrepreneurship. It's about helping them because we see it as an ecosystem, right? In that once they're done with us, we don't want them to unlearn the skills they've learned. So go on to a different program that can help you continue, that has the same philosophy. We don't focus on kids older than sort of 14, 15 because they're going through a different stage of life and they have different priorities. But that's how we work. And what we're trying out now is that a lot of our kids who are graduating CoLab, they come back to be junior TAs, so they actually teach their classes. And obviously it's difficult because of like labor laws and everything else, but it's invaluable.
Bad.
Well, it's a great experience to have in your CV, right? Because you're actually coaching, you're facilitating sessions, you're coming up with curriculum, you're having to write these emails, you're having to manage difficult sometimes difficult sessions, that's more valuable than, I would say, than anything else you could do, because it's real life practical
Is it
experience.
true? I've heard literally like a month ago when my friends came to visit me in Malta. Is it true that the government is trying to ban like kids under 18, 16, 18, when you get to do the paper rounds and work at the ice cream truck or the sweet shop or the pub? Are they trying to ban that right now?
I haven't heard anything like that, but I would be surprised if it was, because the Labour government is trying to be more holistic in their approach.
Okay.
And actually, I learned so much from working at Sainsbury's, doing a paper round.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a key difference to
yeah.
here, basically. Here you cannot really work. Like
And I
nobody.
think that's invaluable, right? Because you know how to handle different personalities, you know how to deal with customers, you know
Speak
how
to
to,
people.
yeah.
What was your first job, Alan?
I was 10 and I was working in my dad's fish and chip shop, peeling
Okay.
potatoes. Then I worked front of house at 12. People were like, who was this kid? But you overcome that very soon. And then I worked at Sainsbury's, and then I became an accountant.
My first job was when I was 16. Yeah, 16. When I was legal to work at the school kitchen, basically the boarding school, like serving my own friends. I was
I bet you were, yeah.
washing dishes. I wasn't cooking though. Like you didn't allow us to cook. Just wash dishes and clean up, basically. That was my first job. Wonderful.
But you learn so much, right? Like,
Yeah.
you learn to deal with communication, the pressure that comes with it.
Finance. You're there like killing yourself to earn £8. Like literally plates and
Well,
plates, and people were just chucking plates at you.
we're similar age, right? So I remember saving up to buy an iPod. I don't know if your listeners will remember those, but like it was what, 150, 200 pounds, which was a month's salary, more than a month's salary. So you're working 2 months to buy this thing. You're like, oh, money is important.
Yeah. You realize like that exactly what you say. Like you realize, wow, like money is hard to make. Like right there, you feel okay, it's hard to make, and you better spend it wisely. Is what I would say. So I used to just save. I'm so conservative. I've come from a very conservative family. We just save, which is very like opposite to what an entrepreneur should be. That's part of my learning journey right now. I would say like I need to learn how to invest my money, and let go of that fear of I've lost £100. It's the end of the world. Like, oh my God, it still gets me. So I'm practicing. There should be a game. There should be a financial game.
We're trying. Financial literacy is hard.
It's so hard.
It's very hard to make it work.
It's so difficult, like, to get away from, okay, some people say just save. And then some people was like, invest your life into everything. And then there are the people who are in between. But then how do you get to know when you're making the right decision, right? Because
you don't, right? And it's part of that learning. But yeah, I think it's a useful skill for sure.
It's a huge skill. Great. Thank you for showing us the platform and explaining to us the detailed bits of Collab. It's been wonderful. Just the last question, a really quick one. We know that you had a lot of transformation, 3 to be precise, during your career so far. What would you say to a person who's looking to quit their job and start probably a business that is more meaningful to them, that they've always wanted to start? What would you say to them?
I would say do it, but do it in a way that's risk-free. So everyone talks about product market fit, and how do you know you have it? What most people do is they talk to their friends and family, like, I have this idea, and your friends and family are like, yeah, great idea, excellent idea, it's great. They want to hurt your feelings. Ask them to pay for it, see their reaction, and that's when you truly understand if there's a thing there. So when we first started Collab, we were like, we have this idea. Mm-hmm. Everyone we know said, it's great, it's great, it's great. And then we asked our friends to pay for it. And they're like, maybe in the summer. And it was like, then you realize, okay, maybe we haven't got the story right, we haven't got the offering right. and you just adapt it. I think that's where, when there's skin in the game, is where really, really you realize, is there something there as a business? And I know a lot of people are too scared to share their ideas as well, because they think, oh, someone's going to steal my idea.
Yeah, it's not true. Nobody has time to steal your idea, right?
Honestly, I have an idea in property space, and I tell everyone, because I don't want to do it, but it's a real pain point for a lot of people. And I know there's a market for it, because I currently do it pro bono. And I've been telling everyone, and the feedback is like, yeah, I would absolutely pay for this. Here's my managing agent's number. I just don't want to do it, because it's not something I'm passionate about. And I guess giving your listeners an extra tip, I would say, if you are going to start a business, you have to love it, you have to be good at it, and it has to make you money. If you don't tick at least 2 of the 3 boxes, don't do it.
Don't do it. Love that. I love that. I love that. Love that advice. Love that advice. Very well summarized. Very well summarized, because ideas are cheap. Like, people don't realize, like, ideas is so cheap. Like, literally, you can be sitting alone with all your friends, have 10 different ideas that are great, but then to make it happen,
it's a different story.
That's a different story. That's years of story, years of reiterating what you were doing and see if it works. No, it doesn't. Oh, let's go back. Let's see how it goes this time. That's what a real idea is, right? So, as you say, share the idea. Don't be afraid to share the idea. Definitely ask if people will pay for it, and then quit your job. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, there's nothing to stop you doing it on the side, right? Unless it's directly competing. Just de-risk it.
100%. Thank you so much, Alan, for your time. It has been a great podcast, and I've got to know you better, and I'm sure the audience too. I really hope, as you say, through this ecosystem, people can refer you to other people, and then we can make more contacts, synergies with each other, and hopefully make, obviously the main goal is to make great impact on the young people themselves, and actually prepare them for life, which is what we're seeing is the big problem right now. Young people are not prepared. People, even out here in Spain, 30-year-olds are still at home wondering what are they doing with their life. Like, that is crazy. I mean, that is the epitome of failure of the education system. How can you be 30-year-old and still not understand a little bit what you want to do, and risking it and just do it, right? As you say, it's crazy. So we're trying to solve, I believe, a huge problem that requires support from the community. So yeah, thanks so much, Alan, from coming on this podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and honestly, what you're doing is a great service to your listeners. Hopefully you can inspire them, and they can go off and become entrepreneurs.
Hopefully, yeah. Entrepreneurs and education. I think those are the 2 things I'm figuring out right now. That's probably my dream right now, to combine the 2 together, because I'm passionate about the 2. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And yeah, let's talk very soon.